Hello everyone. I don't really make these videos, but because of Fritanga, I am going to try. See, I am friends with Fritanga and we play video games often, and he keeps pressuring me to make more videos. And I'm pretty sure one of the videos that he wants me to make is a fanboy video, but I don't really make those. But I'm making a exception for this just because of the fact that I found a bunch of salty reviews on Metacritic about Elden Ring. Now, I really like Elden Ring, and this isn't like oh, I'm just gonna defend Elden Ring because I like the game kind of video, but what I am going to do is I'm gonna kind of like look at the how would you say it? I'm gonna look at the misconceptions about the game, just because there's a lot of things that people have said about the game that aren't entirely true. And a lot of them are getting these misconceptions from the actual reviewers from Metacritic. So the first one we're gonna look at is, this is my first review on Metacritic. I really don't understand the professional Metascore for this game. It is not polished, the combat feels clunky, the bosses are overwhelming, and the satisfaction of beating them doesn't negate the frustration of dying 40 times because of the bad blocking or rolling mechanics. The world you travel around feels empty, it's depressing, and the encounters all feel the same. I won't even talk about the music and the terrible voice acting of the characters you encounter along the way. To be honest, I played around 10 hours and I'm already selling it to make most of my money back. So the first thing he says, or they, I don't really know their gender. The first thing they say is that they don't understand the professional Metacritic score because the game isn't polished. This game is very polished compared to a lot of the AAA games that we see nowadays. Like, there are many games released this day and age that are released in a buggy, unfinished, messy state that is nearly unplayable. And for the most part, Elden Ring is playable. There's certain minor issues like stuttering or just, low frame rate areas, things like that, but it's their first time making an actual like open world game, and they're running on a game engine that they've been using since the original Dark Souls that they've just been updating over time, so if the foundation isn't as good as it could be, that's just a little like background for myself. I used to do like programming and stuff like that. I used to be interested in programming for video games and stuff like that. I've done game testing. I've tested, I alpha and beta tested Dead by Daylight. Beta tested some stuff for a game called Barony. I've done quite a lot actually in my time, but from my own personal experience, I can tell you that the game is very polished, but it most certainly could be polished even more, considering, like I said, that there were these frame rate issues and, stuttering and stuff like that, but, that's very minor issues. For the majority of the game, you don't actually end up going through that because the majority of your time isn't spent in the open world. The majority of your time is actually spent exploring dungeons or like fighting bosses, which don't render the open world while you're fighting those guys, so you're gonna keep a stable 60 FPS. So, the second thing that they say is that the combat feels clunky. How? The combat is honestly the best it's ever felt in a Souls-like. If you ever played Demon Souls, I recently beat Demon Souls before Elden Ring even came out. It took me 12 hours and 27 minutes to beat Demon Souls, and it was clunky. It was horrible. But I had fun playing it. Would I recommend you play it right now? The old Demon Souls, mind you, the PS3 version. Not the updated PS5 version. I wouldn't recommend you play the PS3 version just because the clunky controls and everything's just outdated compared to what we have now. Honestly, Dark Souls, the original Dark Souls, is much better compared to Demon Souls. Obviously, that's how these games work. That's how any game works. Basically, if you create a sequel, any kind of sequel, you're hoping to make it better than the last. And FromSoft, specifically Miyazaki, wants everything to be better than the last. And that means not only is it going to have better controls, but it also means that it's going to be more challenging and it's going to be more thought-provoking. So, no, it is not clunky. The clunkiness that you're probably thinking of is the fact that when you start an animation, you're stuck in that animation. You can't just roll out of an animation. It's not how these games work. It's so that way, like, you know, PvP and stuff like that. You gotta have, since there is online play, you gotta balance out the PvP and stuff like that. And it wouldn't be fair if, say, you go and try to punish somebody who missed an attack, but they roll out of the way. Like, because they're not stuck in an animation. How fair would that be if you went to punish somebody's mistake and you couldn't because the game just allows them to roll anyways? That wouldn't be very fair. At the end of the day, people talk about how challenging and unfair the Souls games are, but if you think about it, they're pretty fair. The combat mechanics are fair because they stay consistent. And the game expects you to learn the combat mechanics and get better as you play. And seeing as this is probably your first Souls game, considering that you feel like the combat is clunky, you're probably not learning, you know, the combat. Let's see here. The bosses are overwhelming, and the satisfaction of beating them doesn't negate the frustration of dying 40 times because of the bad blocking or rolling mechanics. The reason why the bosses feel overwhelming is because you're not meant to feel like this badass that can go around just murdering people. You're not the Doomslayer. You're not the guy that goes in there and cleans up everyone's messes with little effort. You're just some walk the wasteland fuck who came out of nowhere and was like, I'm gonna be fucking Elden Lord. And you have to prove yourself. You have to prove yourself in order to reach that final goal, because not everyone gets to be Elden Lord, so why do you get to be Elden Lord? Prove it by killing these overwhelming monstrosities that nobody else can beat. So basically the whole idea behind that is back in Demon Souls, Miyazaki, this actually dated all the way back to Kingsfield. So Kingsfield, they first were kind of like making the whole like Dark Souls, you know, travel throughout an open world while there's no loading screens and everything is just like interconnected. But you had an overwhelming amount of enemies attacking you at once. And to get around that, it was pretty much just kind of like circle strafe them to kill them, but that was all first person at the time on a PlayStation 1. But basically with Dark Souls and Demon Souls really, they ended up making, you know, the game third person, so that way you had more field of view and you could actually, you know, navigate easier. So it all has to do with like game design, on top of the fact that the overwhelming nature of these bosses, the reason why they're so gigantic and just menacing, is because they want you to feel like you're tiny compared to them. They want you to feel like you're powerless. They want you to feel like a house cat fighting a fucking dragon. And they succeed in that. That's what it feels like. You feel like you're going to fight a monstrosity that you have no way in hell of kicking its ass. And it will kick your ass because you don't know how to fucking fight it. And that's the whole point of these games, is to overcome through trial and error. You figure out how to fight these monstrosities after getting your ass handed to you 40 times over and then eventually killing it. And it could have been just, straight up luck. Or it could have been skill. If it was skill, you will have no trouble in learning how to fight the other bosses down the line. But if it was luck, then you get stuck in this repeated process of getting your ass kicked 40 times and then, getting lucky. So, personally, if you ask me, I think it's more about you need to get good, and not in the sense of I'm being condescending, but as in you should probably learn how to play the game before, complaining about the game. And while, yes, you can complain about the game, I don't think that you should say that the bosses are bad if you continuously get your ass handed to them 40 times. And I also want to bring up that you say that it's because of bad blocking or rolling mechanics. Blocking in this game is, well, it depends on what you're talking about. Are you talking about actually blocking, with a shield, or are you trying to parry? Because you can't always parry every attack. There are some attacks that you can parry, and they're pretty obvious which ones you can. But every attack, so long as you have the stamina for it and your shield isn't crap, you can block nearly every attack. You will still take damage if your shield is crap, or if you have a shield that doesn't negate magical damage. There's stats for every single shield. And you have a physical, you have magic, you have, I think the next one is fire, and then lightning, and then holy for Elden Ring. And each one of them has a damage absorption. And if the damage absorption isn't at 100 for every single one of those, you're gonna take damage from those certain attacks. So typically what you're looking for is shields that have 100% physical. Because most damage types that you're going to encounter throughout the Souls series is physical attacks. And on top of that, every single shield has at least some sort of absorption for the rest of those. That means you take less damage while you have your shield up. You will still take stamina damage depending on the guard absorption. So if the guard absorption isn't at 100, you will still take stamina damage. It will take stamina in order to shield yourself from things. That's how the blocking mechanics work. There is actual mechanics to the game, and I feel like you're kind of one of the people that expects just to hold a button and win. You have to manage your stamina, you have to learn what your equipment can and cannot do, you have to know what your enemies can and cannot do in order to win your fights. If you are struggling in that, you need to learn. The rolling mechanics have their own mechanics as well. Depending on how much equipment you have on, the weight of the equipment will determine what kind of roll type you have, and what kind of roll type you have determines how many invincibility frames you have, or iframes. The iframes are basically the amount of frames that you have in your roll where you take absolutely no damage even though something hits you. And this is why in PvP, you might see somebody get hit on your side, but on their side, they're completely fine and didn't take damage, so you don't see them take damage. So there's also desync to have to deal with in PvP, so on their side, they ended up using their iframes, but on your side, you didn't see the iframes. So you have to learn when to roll with whatever like roll set you have, because you have a heavy, medium, and fast roll. The heavy roll has the least amount of iframes, and the fast roll has the most amount of iframes. If you don't want to get hit, wear less armor or lighter armor. That's just how the game works. The way that I always stated this in games like Mordhau is, if you're not expecting to get hit, don't wear armor. If you are expecting to get hit, wear armor. That's how these games work. I would also recommend that you level up your stats, specifically your endurance, that way you can level up your stamina and your equip load at the same time through Elden Ring. That's how Elden Ring does their stats. Basically, if you level up your endurance, you'll be able to upgrade your equip load, which allows you to wear heavier armor, while also not going into the heavy load. The world you travel around feels empty. It's depressing, and the encounters all feel the same. The world feels empty, even though that there are encounters and enemies everywhere. There are literally places for you to go, you just gotta find them. Like, the world is not empty. Like, there's stuff for you to discover. There's things littered all around the world. It's more filled up than Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild was an empty wasteland with very few encounters between your destinations, and if there was, you wouldn't get anything out of it. However, if you do a little bit of exploring, you'll find some interesting stuff. I remember whenever I first started, I went straight east, away from the objective, which was to go up northwest. I went straight east, and I found some cool little dungeons. I found that underground place that everybody was so enthralled by. I was interested. I was probably one of the first people that found that place whenever the game released, just because I decided, hey, I don't want to go through the main objective, which is to become Elden Lord. So I went east and found that underground place and took that really long elevator down. And at that moment, it was pretty much me thinking, wow, I probably just found something that not many other people have experienced this early on in the game. And I think that's the whole point of having an open world. But as far as emptiness, no. It's not empty. It's not empty. It literally isn't. There's encounters everywhere. Like, as soon as you get out of the main gate, spoilers, so maybe just skip here. Basically, as soon as you start the game and you get out of the little tutorial area, you get introduced to the open world. And you immediately get a site of grace, and there's an NPC to talk to who tells you that you are maidenless. Immediately, whenever you're talking to them, you can see that there is a guy on a horse just, walking up and down this little hill. And of course, people's first thought is, oh, I'm gonna fight this enemy because it's just gonna be a normal enemy. And then they realize it's actually a mini boss or a world boss, whatever you want to call it. The tree sentinel kicked everyone's ass. It kicked my ass. And so that enemy was your first introduction to the open world. And those kinds of encounters are littered around the entirety of the open world. There are so many unique encounters like that that are placed around the open world. And if you even think about it, directly east of that, inside the lake, is a dragon encounter. And those encounters are set up to be if you're not good at the game, you should probably come back with better equipment to kick its ass. So then, if you're smart, you go past them and you start following the graces. Now, as for it being depressing, the entire game is not supposed to be a happy-go-lucky, you're an adventurer, you're gonna do the Skyrim and go in there and kill all the bad guys and save all of Tamriel. That's not how this game works. You're becoming Elden Lord, and you get to choose how you do it, but the end result is the same. You become Elden Lord. It doesn't matter how you do it, as long as you do it. There are other endings to the game that I know of, and I don't want to say them here because I don't want to spoil anything, but there are other endings, and if you're interested, look up how to do it. I would recommend on your first playthrough, just go through the game as you would normally, and you'll probably get a really depressing ending, but after that, look it up, see how to do the other endings. I think the fun of that is finding out there were other things that you could do, and then replaying the game doing those other things. But as for the encounters all feeling the same, they honestly do not. The only things that feel the same are the dragons, really, because they are literally just Midir from Dark Souls 3. Dark Souls 3 had Midir as the hardest boss in the Ring City DLC. They kind of just took Midir and said, hey, let's just copy and paste every dragon in the game to be Midir. Those are the only ones that feel the same to me. As far as every encounter, if you fight a pack of wolves versus a group of people like the hollows, equivalent of hollows, basically just the normal mobs in the game. I can't remember what they're called. Basically the human enemies that are just littered everywhere in these, small encampments and stuff like that. You fight those human enemies and then fight a pack of wolves. Those encounters are two entirely different encounters. The wolves prioritize in trying to mess up your timing by, backstepping. They backstep in order to fight you, so you might swing and miss, while the human enemies prioritize ganging up on you. So they are not very good at one-on-ones. You can one-on-one a wolf, but it won't feel the same as one-on-oneing the normal human enemies. Just because the normal human enemies aren't very good at one-on-ones unless you're talking about the more armored ones. The armored ones, specifically the guys with the spear and shield, will actually use the guard counters against you. And it's pretty interesting how FromSoft is making the human enemies starting to use the same mechanics that players can use. I like that idea, giving everyone the same mechanics, not just the players, because that just makes it interesting. And you could see this in Sekiro. Spoiler for Sekiro, if you tried to fucking stab Owl, he would Makiri counter, and that would fuck you up. And I think that's awesome. You won't even talk about the music and the terrible voice acting? There is only one character that I know of that had terrible voice acting, but I don't want to mention it just because it would be a major spoiler to the game. Everyone else has had amazing voice acting. Miyazaki knows the voices well. He knows what kind of voices his characters should have, and he does an amazing job at finding the people who can voice them. The people who voice them do an amazing job at actually voicing the characters. The music is used sparingly in the Souls games, but in this open world game, I feel like they had to use music to kind of differentiate between just exploring and combat, so it wasn't used as sparingly. So I think the open world music was more just a relaxing kind of Oh, you're not in combat, just, do whatever. Whereas in the older games, like Dark Souls and Demon Souls, the only thing that you had to accompany you on your journey was the sound of your feet hitting the floor, the armor clanking, your actual boots hitting the floor. And I think that was the beauty of it, was that it was used so sparingly that during boss fights and during the Firelink Shrine, it was entirely different moods. Such as in a boss fight, it felt intense because there was no music to accompany you up until that point. Whenever you went through hell just to get there, and then it felt epic because there was music playing as you were fighting this boss. And whenever you made it back to Firelink Shrine, it felt like relief. Like everything that you just went through, it was hell, but you finally made it back home. That is the beauty of the music in the Souls games. The music in Elden Ring is kind of used for just exploratory music and, battle music. It's more of just a pacing issues just because, it's an open world game. An open world game can't exactly have perfect pacing, so they don't know when you'll get bored exploring, so the music is there just to accompany you. So that way you don't get extremely bored while in the open world. You could literally skip every encounter that you had just to get to a new grace, and you'll have that music to accompany you in order to not feel bored while you do it. I will tell you this, one of my favorite moments in the game was I was stuck in a area that had a bunch of dragons in it. So I decided I'm not going to fight a bunch of dragons, I'm going to skip them. And I remember one of them woke up and started walking over to where I was hiding. I was hiding behind a rock. The dragon literally stuck its snout over the rock, trying to look for me. And I was just standing there, ready to fucking run away if it got alerted. And it didn't catch me. But it was intense. It was the most intense feeling I had ever felt in a Souls game. And it wasn't scripted either. It felt like it was scripted, but it wasn't. And I think that was the beauty of putting a game like this into an open world setting. Is because things like that can happen, where you can't fight an enemy. So it causes terror. Terror that I have never felt in a video game before. Not since I was a teenager playing Amnesia: The Dark Descent. And Elden Ring is just amazing for that. And at the end of this, you say that you played around 10 hours and you're selling it to make most of your money back. I played 120 hours and I finished the game. I literally have 124 hours in the game at this moment. I finished the game and I'm ready to keep playing. Because I want more. I know there's stuff that I haven't seen and I want to see it all. It's so good. Anyways, what do we have next? I can't stand overhyped gamers and paid game reviews. So that's why I'm giving it 0 points. The game itself has nothing original to offer. Empty world, over 10 years old game mechanics, bad graphics, no story, etc, etc. This is just lazy game made for those fanboys who doesn't give a fuck or shit, I don't know, it's censored. It's not even that difficult, although its identity based on that. It's just a new lazily made game without a soul. Why bother? Well, I've already mentioned why the world isn't empty. The game itself does have things that are original, considering that it literally introduced a new mechanic, the guard counter. And the fact that it's in an open world setting compared to what the other Dark Souls games were, where everything was on more linear paths. You could choose which path that you went on, but there was usually only one path that you would take. Like in the original Dark Souls, you wouldn't go to the skeleton area like I did, because I got my ass handed to me as a thief class on my first playthrough, and that pissed me off, and I stopped playing until I came back on the fucking PC on a laptop that couldn't fucking run the game. But yeah, Dark Souls was fun. But yeah, as far as the originality, it definitely is original. The only thing that really isn't original is, I'd say, it's just more of the same like gameplay mechanics as the Demon Souls and Dark Souls games were, and Bloodborne. But that's what FromSoft does well. I mean, nobody complained that Sekiro was unoriginal. Over 10 years old game mechanics, that fucks me up just because of how you worded that. The 10-year-old game mechanics are set in place. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, if you think about it, like Doom, the original Doom, that was in 1992, right? The original Doom is like fucking 30 years old now. Jesus Christ, I'm fucking old. The original Doom, 1982, 30 years old. It's a shooter put in first person. And people to this day are still drawing inspiration from it in order to make games. Why would you change that? Why would anybody say that the newest Call of Duty is bad because the game has the same kind of shooting mechanics as a game 30 years ago? First-person shooter with a gun. Like, you don't. That doesn't make any sense. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You're a dude with a gun in first person. That shouldn't be changed. So, 10 years of you are a dude in armor with a sword. Why should that change? Why should the combat mechanics change if it's worked for every single game thus far? I just don't understand the appeal of changing things that aren't broken. Like, and even let's say we did change it. What would be your ideal change? Would you want something that was more flashy? Do you want something where it's just press a button, like you press X for a light attack and Y for a heavy attack, and you do things that are just outlandish and flashy? Because that doesn't make me feel good for accomplishing anything. Like, if I beat a boss because I tapped X a bunch, that doesn't feel rewarding. What feels rewarding is learning the timings and beating the boss because I fucking bashed my head against the wall until it broke through. That's rewarding. And, I'm obviously like over-exaggerating there, but what's rewarding is whenever you actually learn what the boss does. Or if you play like me, you just, like I said, bash my head against the wall. But yeah, basically my idea of a fun boss fight is one that isn't overly confusing, but also one that isn't fucking easy as hell. You don't want a boss that turns into a Legend of Zelda boss where it's like, oh, well, you just got these bombs. You got these bombs right here from this dungeon. So that means you have to use the bombs to kill this boss. Okay, that's easy enough. So what's the challenge? Oh, there is no challenge. You just throw bombs. It's not fun. That's a waste of time. Now with the mechanics itself, that's the thing that I actually like about the game. That's the thing that everyone likes about the game. The people that don't like it are the people who refuse to learn the mechanics. I come from Mordhau, okay? A game that was released in 2019. Mordhau was a game that everyone enjoyed in 2019. Back whenever it released, April 29th, 2019, it had like 60,000 players playing at once. it was a fun game until people started learning the combat mechanics. And I was one of the people that started learning the combat mechanics because, you know, it has mechanics. It's a game that, you know, you can get good at. So the people who refused to learn the combat mechanics were all claiming that the game was being overrun by people who were just abusing mechanics and ruining the fun for them. But no. Basically what it is you refuse to learn the mechanics and you're getting your ass handed to you. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can refuse to learn the mechanics and still have fun with the game. But the thing is, at this point, you're complaining that you're not learning the mechanics, and then you're saying that the game is bad because you refuse to learn the mechanics. That's a you problem, not a game problem. That is a you problem. Sorry. That's just something that has to be said. If you refuse to learn how to play the game, you can't complain about the fucking gameplay. If the gameplay is, I don't want to learn how to play the game, that's not an argument. That is literally just you refusing to learn how to play the game. And what you should either do is not play the game or learn how to play the game. Like, it's simple. Bad graphics. The graphics aren't the most drop-dead gorgeous graphics, that's true, but has there really been a Souls game that have drop-dead gorgeous graphics? I mean, a lot of people only praised the Demon Souls remake. The only reason why the Demon Souls remake for the PS5 was praised was because it was a PS5 exclusive, because the PlayStation 5 didn't have a ton of games at the time. So people were extremely excited about Demon Souls. But even the Demon Souls remake doesn't look like the most drop-dead gorgeous graphics. It looks better than the original, yes, but there are other games out there that look more realistic and, you know, it has more graphical fidelity. I mean, there are a ton of games out there that have more realistic looking graphics. I mean, have you seen what Red Dead Redemption 2 looks like? Would you say that Red Dead Redemption 2 is a better game just because it looks better than Demon Souls? Hell no. Red Dead Redemption 2 is god-awful in terms of gameplay. Like, holy shit. If you haven't seen it yet, look at Nicky Jicky's video on Red Dead Redemption 2. Just because he does a really good job of explaining why Rockstar's direction for their game design is just so goddamn awful. Just because they make these AAA titles that look fucking realistic and have great stories doesn't mean it's a good game. You see, I'm in favor of Rockstar making fucking movies. But my idea is this: if they want to make movies, don't charge $60 for a fucking movie. Put it in the fucking box office and fucking let them, you know, let them fucking argue about if it's the masterpiece fucking movie of the year bullshit, whatever the hell. But they don't want to do that. They want to continue milking fucking shark cards and shit off of people. But, you know, that's a video for another time. But yeah, graphics isn't everything. Like, Elden Ring has stylized graphics. Like, if you take a look at a game called Barony, it has some, you know, obviously outdated graphics, but it was never meant to be a graphical game. And it is honestly one of the more fun games I've played in the past few years. And we could take a look at another game that everyone knows of, Minecraft. Do you know how fun Minecraft was back in the day? You know how fun it can be today if you just get on a fucking server and play with friends and do stupid shit with friends? It is a hell of a lot of fun. And it doesn't look like the best ever fucking game. It looks like absolute dog shit. But it plays fantastically. And that's what games are about. Like, take FTL, Faster Than Light. Faster Than Light is 2D. It doesn't have the most realistic looking graphics. but it plays fantastically. It's a lot of fun. There are a lot of games out there that play fantastically, but don't have the best graphics out there, and you don't need that. All you need is a consistent style that feels nice to play. That's all it is does it feel great to play? Is it fun? That is the end goal. That is what everyone strives at the end of the day. Unless, you're just so stuck on fucking graphical fidelity. I used to be like that whenever I was a teenager. I literally wanted a PS3 for Christmas one year because I saw that the games on the PS3 looked better. And you know what I did? I played Heavy Rain and Killzone. Killzone 3, specifically. I played those two games. And Metal Gear Solid 4. I played Metal Gear Solid 4 and the HD collection. I played all those games. And I still played everything else that I had on the Xbox 360. I was playing Halo, Assassin's Creed, I was playing Guitar Hero. I was just playing a lot of shit on the Xbox 360. Hell, I even played Quake 4 on the Xbox 360 and Quake 2 because Quake 4, the one that I got for the Xbox 360, came with a version of Quake 2. And it was the actual Quake 2 instead of the one that I played on the N64 years ago. It was literally the full release of Quake 2 on the Xbox 360, and I fucking loved it. And I would play that any day over the fucking shitty graphical fidelity bullshit that the fucking AAA studios are trying to push today, honestly. Like, I can guarantee you, mark my words, Grand Theft Auto 6 is just going to be a fucking graphics overhaul bullshit thing that Rockstar's going to push with simplistic gameplay that GTA 5 had compared to GTA 4. If they start putting these, go here and wait for the cutscene, watch cutscene, fucking, then you go and do the mission, then you go to the open world, it's not fun. It's literally just brain dead. If they do the same thing that they did with Red Dead Redemption 2, it's not gonna be good. And I can tell you that GTA 6 is going to be exactly like GTA 5, just with better graphics. They're gonna do the same thing that they did with Red Dead Redemption 2, and GTA 5, and GTA 4. It's just going to turn into the whole drive here, do this, do that. You have to go to this specific spot. If you do everything else that we don't want you to do, it's a mission failure. And I can understand if some missions were like that, where you have to do something specifically, like you have to be stealth in this mission. Yeah, that's fine. But don't make it every fucking mission where I have to follow the fucking directions at the bottom of the screen in order to fucking get through it. And I fucking hate it because of the fact that it's treating me like I'm a goddamn baby that doesn't know how to fucking do anything for myself. Oh, hey. To drink water, you have to first pick up the water, then unscrew the fucking cap, and then drink it. Thanks, I already fucking knew that. Why'd you have to fucking tell me step by step? I'm not a fucking child. Treat me like a goddamn adult. Enough about that. No story? You say that there's no story to Elden Ring. It literally starts out with an opening cinematic that tells you that there are literally 4 pieces of the Elden Ring that you need to restore. So that is literally a hint that you're going to have to kill at least 4 fucking bosses in order to beat the game. You're going to kill 4 bosses and restore the Elden Ring so that way you can become Elden Lord. That is literally the story. It's simplistic, but it's also amazing because not only does it fucking open the world up to have these little mini stories in between, say, like for instance, there was one guy who wanted me to rescue his fort. Well, I did that, and whenever I went back to him, he was like, oh, hey, I can, swear you into my service. And he'd be a knight of whatever fucking service that he had. I don't remember because whenever I got there, so he could swear me in, he ended up saying that the fort was completely fucked and there's nobody in there, so pretty much there was nothing that he could do. So that's its own fucking story of, wow, he's completely fucked. Yeah, he's the only one left in his fort. That's depressing, and it's its own little story. And that's the thing about these Souls games, is that there's a massive amount of story in there, but you have to go and look for it. Do you get that? Do you get that? You have to look for the story. It's not going to, pull out a book and read it to you and be like, okay, so this is what happens. You're gonna go fight the bad guy now. You're gonna watch a cutscene where he tells you his evil plans. No, it's not like that. It's you unwrap the story. You figure out what the story is about. If you fail to understand the story, that is on you. Literally, there is a story there. If I tell you everything that there is about the story, first of all, it would be a fucking major spoiler that I wouldn't be able to upload this video unless I just put a big ass spoiler warning for, the entirety of Elden Ring. And for two, there was shit in there that even I have missed. And I can guarantee you, Vadi is going to fucking put up fucking 600 videos in the next year where he's just going to explain everything there is to know about Elden Ring. Because you have all this shit. You have these item descriptions, you have the fucking NPCs, you have literal cutscenes that show you certain things, and there's little details in cutscenes that you might not notice in the first place, but it's amazing how Souls games tell the story. Not only is there cutscenes that have little details in them, but there are also little area details that will tell you things about what happened there. Like, I want to go into detail about so much more stuff, but there's so many spoiler stuff that I don't want to go into. Oh god, just play the game. Just play the game. If you want to know the story, play the game, listen to NPCs, read item descriptions, just learn. And no, it is not a lazy game for the fanboys. Because we do care. Because I care. I didn't like Dark Souls 2 because it was a vastly different game from what I was used to. And that doesn't mean Dark Souls 2 is a bad game in its own merit. Dark Souls 2 is good, but the problem is that it has so many flaws that I personally think it's the weakest one. But it's still good in its own way. There were a lot of stuff in Dark Souls 2 where they tried to do different shit, but it didn't take off. Like, do you remember the ability to grab onto rope and slide down to different areas? Probably not, because you probably didn't play Dark Souls 2. That you didn't get that far into the game. But that shit was awesome. I wish they did more shit like that, more traversal stuff like that. But they didn't because, Dark Souls 2 didn't meet expectations. Now, one thing that I really wish these games would do is have more, I wouldn't say cinematic, but more kind of moody lighting, because I actually have a friend who ended up telling me about, oh hey, you should just turn down your brightness in Elden Ring to make it more immersive. And I was like, oh, okay. So turning down your brightness to 3 made it to where you couldn't see jack shit inside caves. So that made relying on a torch or a lantern, it made it, an actual gameplay thing. And I wish that kind of stuff was actually forced. I wish that you couldn't just turn up your brightness all the way and see in a fucking dark cave. Because half the game I missed out on, this whole, do I use a shield or do I use a fucking torch? Or do I use a lantern so I can use my shield? Just decisions. That's the thing that I like about these games, making little decisions like that. You say it's not even that difficult, but did you even fight Radon? If you don't know who Radon is, don't look him up. Keep that a surprise. But yeah, it's not a lazy game. It's honestly fantastic for what it is. I put 120 hours into it, god damn it. It's only been a little over a week. What's next? Anyone giving this game a 10 out of 10 is incapable of being objective about a game made by From Software. For anyone who wants Dark Souls in an open world, this game is for you. However, this will not appeal to a large number of people. This is touted as being the most accessible Souls game ever, which may in fact be the case. If it is, it still has a long way to go. Okay, I can be objective about a, From Software game. Just because it's Dark Souls doesn't mean I'm just gonna give it a 10 out of 10. I personally think it's like an 8.5 out of 10, but that's just me. Just because there is issues with it, but it's still a fantastic game overall. Like, it doesn't deserve to be, the golden shelf fucking Super Mario Brothers 2 level of fame, but honestly, it's still pretty good. I'll rate it pretty high with the big boys. You see, that's the thing about these games. You claim that it will not appeal to a large number of people, but FromSoft doesn't make games that appeals to a large number of people. Miyazaki wants games that appeal to himself. That's where you're mistaken. You think that just because they're a company that they are looking to make the most money off of their product. While that may be true for keeping the business afloat, but it's not true in terms of the fact that Miyazaki still makes the games for himself. And as for it being the most accessible Souls game ever, it technically is. Like, accessibility doesn't mean easy mode. The Actman made a fucking video about that. Accessibility should be things like me. I'm colorblind, so I have trouble differentiating between colors. And there was one quest that I had that said that they marked a red dot on my map. I didn't know where the fuck it was because I couldn't see it. I literally could not see the red dot. That's something that they need to work on in terms of accessibility. Otherwise, anybody can pick it up and play it. There are people who have played games like Counter-Strike without hands. Do you know how difficult Counter-Strike is? That nobody's going around claiming that, Counter-Strike isn't accessible. The way I see it, like, a game is accessible if you have, the ability to pick up a controller and play a game. There might be some issues of some people not being able to tap a button repeatedly, and there are games out there that have the ability to just turn that into a hold button for those QuickTime events, but the only QuickTime event like that in FromSoft games are whenever you get grabbed, and even then, that's only to get out quicker, because it will still get you out as long as you don't get killed while you're in the grab. But accessibility and difficulty aren't the same thing. And a lot of people that get that misconstrued are, idiots. Sorry to say, you're an idiot. That's just how it is. Accessibility in a video game does not mean that it has to be easy. An easy mode does not mean accessible. See, Cheesehead, you're probably thinking that whenever you saw it's more accessible, you probably thought, oh, that means it must have an easy mode, which means I should be able to beat a FromSoft game now. No, that's not how these games work. Alright, next one. Game have several graphic issues. It does not feel rewarding to explore since it almost always thrash rewards. Game on shelf for now, at least until the FPS could hit 60 at least. Okay, graphic issues? Maybe if it's like a bunch of flickering that's causing seizures. Yeah, I could understand that, because I had Sekiro do that to me. However, in my experience of 120 hours, the only graphic issues I have seen is fade-in issues. where the way that the optimization works currently in Elden Ring is anytime that you go inside a building, it will try to fade out objects outside of the area that you can't see. And so if you go inside and then out real quickly and turn around, you might see like blades of grass that are sticking out of the ground that just kind of like materialize, or like the ground itself might materialize out of nowhere. But that's not a game-breaking issue, and it doesn't feel rewarding to explore. You always get like a talisman, armor, a new spell, a new weapon from exploring dungeons. Like, there is definitely incentive to explore. They removed the item degradation just because of the fact that they don't want your shit breaking in the middle of exploring, because then it wouldn't be rewarding to explore. Because then it becomes a risk versus reward kind of scenario, and they always want the reward to be better than the risk. Because if you die to an enemy 50 times trying to get to your reward, then the reward's not going to feel great if, you break your weapon getting a reward that you can't use. Say, like, you're just a strength build and you go in and get your reward of some kind of weird spell that you can't even use because it requires 30 intelligence. Well, that reward is useless to you. And you broke your weapon trying to get that reward, so then it just feels like a waste of time. However, because they took out weapon degradation, the reward is always gratifying. It's, oh hey, in case I ever decide to spec into a intelligence build, I can use the spell. That's very rewarding. Just something to think about. As for, hitting 60 FPS, that's something that I wish console players could do, is like switch graphics options. Like, if they don't care about hitting 60 FPS, they can turn graphics options up. And if they do care about hitting 60 FPS, they should be able to allow the ability to turn it down. That's the disadvantage of playing on console. Don't play on a PlayStation 5 if you don't want to have to wait for the developer to make it so that way you can play at 60 FPS. Sorry. What's this one say? I played it for 2 days now, utterly disappointed. Controls are shit, no story, no tutorials, interface is disgusting, and cannot equip my ammo. Hit animations are slow, and you get one shot because you can't cancel them. Camera is weird and makes combat way harder. You cannot block and walk back. I've never been more disappointed in a game. Controls are shit. Alright, well, that's just fucking wrong. That's just a straight up lie. No story, that is also straight up lie, because I already said it earlier that there is a story. No tutorials, there is literally a tutorial section, you can choose to skip it. If you drop down the hole at the very beginning, after you get your flasks, it has an entire tutorial section if you drop down the hole after you get your flasks. You instead fucking lifted up the door and walked outside. You went up the elevator and walked out fucking side. It's not my fault that you fucking decided, hey, I'm going to go up the elevator and then fucking go outside and play the game because I already know how to play a FromSoft game. No, just... It's not FromSoft's fault just because you decided to skip the tutorial section. The tutorial stuff is always optional. You're the one that decided not to read any of the signs. Interface is disgusting and cannot equip my ammo. Okay. Interface is disgusting. How? How is the interface disgusting? It gives you literally all the information that you need at the bottom left for your equipment. It gives you your health, your focus points, and your stamina at the top left. It's gonna be a hair on the camera though. But yeah, how is it disgusting? It gives you your it gives you your rune count at the bottom right. Pressing start opens up the menu that is similar to Dark Souls 2, which had a fantastic menu for, you can select your equipment, you can craft items in there now, and you can also just look at your inventory itself. It's how the interface has always been, and changing that when, like, it's the if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. The interface isn't disgusting. You just haven't learned the interface. You just want a fucking easy to use where it's just press button, and then you have all your armor equipped. It's not what it is. That's not what kind of game it is. And you can't equip your ammo. You probably ran out of ammo. And you can't equip ammo that you don't have. That, or you're using ammo for the wrong type. Like, say if you use a great arrow with a fucking longbow or a short bow. You can't do that. You need a great bow for great ammo. Like, ballista bolts only go for ballistas. You can get a hand ballista, or, you know, if you get bolts itself, that only goes for crossbows. It's just, you gotta learn what ammo type is for what. It's simple. Hit animations are slow when you get one shot because you can't cancel them. Well, congratulations, you've learned that you have to commit to your attacks. Hit animations are slow because you need to have some time in between attacks in order to read them. Because there's also PvP to keep in mind. If they were extremely fast, if they hit instantly, do you know how stupid PvP would be? Because it would just be a guessing game of whenever you should and shouldn't roll. Or block. It just wouldn't be fun. With the way that these games work is that you have to telegraph your attacks in order for it to be fair. Because otherwise, if you couldn't telegraph your attacks, everyone would choose the attacks that you couldn't telegraph. So then PvP would be all about that, because they're balancing stuff for not only the PvE, but also the PvP, which is a very difficult thing to do. I mean, it's amazing that they've done it several times over. I mean, do you remember the PvP in Dark Souls 1? Remember how garbage it was when people could just, you know, be a glass cannon sorcerer, invade people at the starting areas, and just one-shot everyone? Can't do that in Elden Ring. Camera is weird and makes combat way harder. The camera is only weird when you're locking on to somebody. If you find an enemy that is making it weird, maybe you shouldn't lock on, otherwise then it just makes it more difficult. Yeah, they're like, it's, to bring up Midir again, Midir had a lot of crazy attacks that would cause them to just move the camera wildly if you're locked onto them. So the whole thing with Midir was that you wouldn't lock onto them. So if you're locking on to enemies that are throwing the camera around, that's on you. That is on you for locking onto them. You cannot block and walk back. Yes, you can. That also has to deal with locking on. That just means you're not locking on whenever you're going to block. If you are walking backwards, you're going to turn in that direction unless you're locked on. You should have learned this since Ocarina of Time. Whenever you're Z-targeting an enemy and you block to face them, that's been a thing since Ocarina of Time, my dude. Like, come on. You just lock onto them, hold up your shield, and walk backwards if you need to. Like, it's a matter of locking on and not locking on. Like, come on, you gotta know when to do what. You've never been more disappointed in a game because you don't know how to play the game. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like you're just learning how to play the game terribly and then making a terrible review, saying it's a 0 out of 10 because you refuse to learn how to play the game because you skipped the tutorial. That's what it's looking like, my dude. Jesus Christ. Alright, this next one. The Specialized Media sold me a game, and when I went to play it, whenever I went to play it, it was another one. The truth is, the game was rigged from the start. The truth is that gamer reviews cannot be trusted. This game is all buggy, full of frame rate problems, popping on the grass. Like in full 2022, with consoles of last generation, the grass still appears out of nowhere like magic in front of you. How can a game with such simple graphics not achieve a merely 60 FPS? There's more to the game than just graphics, dude. Like, have you ever thought about like polygons and how many of those that are being rendered at once, plus the effects, plus the volumetric fog, all the volumetric effects, not just the fog actually, fucking the textures, because textures, just because they don't look, top of the line AAA, maybe the graphics, just because they look simple, doesn't mean like under the hood there aren't a lot of polygons being rendered by something that is an APU that doesn't have enough power to support it. Maybe you should probably look into that instead of just looking at what you can see and saying, oh, it looks simplistic. It's not all about graphics, my guys. Like, honestly, the way I look at it is, if the game looked like RuneScape, I would still play it. I honestly would have. The gameplay is just so good. Like, it's not about graphics, guys. Just stop bringing up the graphics. It honestly hurts that so many people think that graphics is like the talking point of every single game. And yeah, I know frame rate issues and stuff like that are an issue, but like, why is it always about the graphics? You gotta stop thinking about the graphics. If it wasn't about the graphics, then it would be about the gameplay, and you would be rating this shit 10 out of 10 for the gameplay. Or probably like a 9.5 out of 10 because of frame rate issues, which is part of the reason why I think it's an 8.5 out of 10. On to the next one. 97 by critics. What? Riding a horse in an open world with bad graphics and old textures isn't innovative. This game feels like they threw Dark Souls 3 in a blender and added some new bosses. Why this gets so much praise, I don't know. Compared to Horizon Forbidden West, oh god, no, it's a fanboy. It's a fanboy that fucking got angry over fucking Horizon Forbidden West. You were angry because Horizon Forbidden West got scored lower than Elden Ring. That's what it is. That's what this whole review is. Compared to Horizon Forbidden West, which has a lot of new and improved things, great story, and great characters, this game is a big joke. Video Game Donkey put it the best whenever he said,
"For me though, Horizon Zero Dawn will forever be known as that open world game that came out 3 days before Breath of the Wild, and now Horizon Forbidden West was that open world game that came out a couple days before Elden Ring. See ya."
But yeah, Horizon Forbidden West, as far as I can tell, it's not a game for me just because I don't like flashy fucking animations instead of gameplay. So that's what Horizon Forbidden West appeals to. You're a part of the audience that doesn't care about the gameplay. You just want flashy animations for the gameplay. Like, sure, flashy animations are great and fine, but like, that doesn't make you a better player. And you don't have to be a better player to enjoy games, but the thing is that like, you eventually hit this roadblock of you start playing games that doesn't hold your hand, and you start realizing how much worse you are at video games because you were coddled throughout the entirety of your time playing them. See, people that bring up Horizon Forbidden West are the people that are upset that there's a game that's better than it. So this is obviously a fanboy that fucking got angry that there was a game that got scored higher than their precious fucking exclusive. I've seen it. I mean, I've watched Oh No It's Alex and Fritanga Plays. They have videos covering these people on fucking Twitter. These people are insane because their precious exclusives aren't the ones that get the highest scores. The thing is that why you just simping for a company like that? The way that I look at it is, you shouldn't simp over a company because they don't give a shit about you. You don't have an investment into that company. You haven't put any money into it. You haven't gotten stocks or anything from it. Well, why should you care about how well the games do? If you like Horizon Forbidden West more than Elden Ring, more power to you. But you can't just go in there and say that your review is an objective thing, saying that it's just riding a horse in an open world with bad graphics and old textures, and saying that that's not innovative. Neither is Horizon Forbidden West. And there are plenty of other story games that have flashy fucking animations out there. I mean, if you look at Horizon Zero Dawn actually had it still has a lot of stuff that Horizon Forbidden West is using. Like there are plenty of animations from Horizon Zero Dawn that are used in Horizon Forbidden West. Go look at a comparison video. There are plenty of animations that still exist. Like sure, they might use like facial capture technology and be able to up the graphics and stuff like that, but that isn't really innovative. Like that's just improving the graphics. Why is that even a thing? Why is that like an argument? Shouldn't the improvements be in the gameplay? Like, remember Breath of the Wild? Whenever people were stoked about that, they weren't stoked about it because it was graphically enhanced or anything like that. Breath of the Wild doesn't look like the greatest, but it's allowing for problem solving while also being free form. The way that I see Breath of the Wild is that the fucking puzzle solving can be solved in more than one way. You might find a way to solve the puzzle that is completely different than the way that I solve it. And that's the beauty of these freeform games, is that it's not telling you how to play, it's giving you the tools to play and telling you this is the problem, go solve it. And that's the beauty of these kinds of games. And Horizon Forbidden West doesn't have that same sort of problem solving in it. Let's see here. This game is not as inventive as critics say, and the graphics, goddammit, and performance aren't satisfactory for a AAA game in 2022. Is From Software even considered a AAA studio? They're not considered an indie studio. What would they be considered as? They're not really an indie studio, but they're not really AAA either, I wouldn't say. It's not as inventive just because of the graphics and performance. You can invent new things in gameplay. This entire fucking video has just been, oh, the graphics, more graphics. Let me tell you something. Whenever I got Arma 3, I thought it was the hottest shit just because it looked fucking pretty. Because I played DayZ and Arma 2. But I soon start to realize that the game is very clunky. And it's not a shooter like I thought it was. I thought it was going to be a better shooter than what Arma 2 was. I thought, oh, Arma 2 is an old game, so it's going to be clunky. Haha, I understand that. Arma 3 comes out, and I was like, oh wow, it looks fucking gorgeous. It looks amazing. And it does look beautiful. But that doesn't make it play any better. It still plays like Arma 2. And I don't like it for that. Like, it's a fun game, but it's not meant for me. It looks pretty, but eye candy only gets you so far. Like, whenever I got out of the whole graphics craze, there was one thing that I actually ended up talking about. What if there was a game that was the most drop-dead gorgeous game that you ever saw in your life? It looked like real life. Like, the people in it looked realistic, and the grass, the trees, like everything in the environment looked like it was real life. But the objective of the game was just to take one step forward. How fun would that game be? Not very fun, because there's nothing to it. You just press up on the left stick or press W on your keyboard. That wouldn't be very fun, would it? But everything else looks gorgeous. You spend $60 on something like that, you're gonna feel ripped off. Literally a second of gameplay, which is just to walk forward and then you're done. You're done with the game. That's not how games are made. You don't fucking make a game that is just drop dead gorgeous and then neglect everything else. There might be other games like that, like, you know, you could make a racing game that looks drop dead gorgeous and only have like basic racing controls. You can do that, and I'm sure it would do well, but it just depends on what kind of game it is. Like walking simulator games. Walking simulator games need to be gorgeous, just because the only thing that you can do is walk. It's all about that eye candy for presentation. But once you don't have presentation and you start stripping away what the actual game mechanics are, then you just start realizing that, the game doesn't have much going for it. It's not really a game. It's just a movie that looks really good. Alright, next one. Overhyped by critics as usual. They said this is the most accessible game ever, and that is a complete lie. The gist of this game is ride around and farm small weak enemies until you can level up a very big amount. Then after 68 hours, you may have a chance at the first boss. It's doable, but it's not worth the time invested. No guide whatsoever and gets boring fast. I don't really care to read an entire fucking paragraph of, them just thinking that, this is like Skyrim where if you level up, you can finally kill hard bosses. Which, yes, levels do help, I guess. It really depends, because there's a lot of videos out there where people do soul level 1 runs, and it's insane. It's amazing for the amount of thought and strategy that's put into these soul level 1 runs, while also having the skill to back up that strategy to finish the game while being a level 1. It's honestly amazing. But the majority of your damage isn't going to come from the, levels that you are, like in most RPGs that you play. Most of your damage is coming from your equipment, like what kind of weapon you use and how much you scaled it up. Specifically, if you have a normal greatsword, the colossal greatsword, just without upgrading it, you can do maybe 200 damage with the scaling. If you have really good stats with it, if you leveled up without leveling up the weapon itself. But a plus 25 greatsword, on the other hand, in Elden Ring can do upwards of 700 damage, if not more, with the weapon scaling. It's insane how much it changes. That's also accounting for the amount of resistances that somebody might have for the later games. I was doing 500 damage against the final boss with a plus 25 greatsword, while also having 40 strength, and honestly, that's still a pretty good chunk of damage. But I later on switched to a fucking giant crusher hammer because I saw somebody else using that, which requires 60 strength to even wield in one hand, and they were doing double my fucking damage against the final boss. With the right weapon, you can do 1,000 damage. Now, on top of that, you also have to think about, like I said, the resistances of the enemies that you fight. So being prepared to fight an enemy is something that you have to take into account with, because of the fact that your enemies might not have, let's say, lightning resistance. You can get a grease, you can craft a grease actually, in order to apply lightning to your weapon, in order to deal lightning damage on top of your physical damage, which is very good for people who are, not resistant to light. That can also work the other way. You could find an enemy that has major resistance to lightning, and you put lightning grease on there and do next to no damage, because you're only putting in physical damage and they're not taking any lightning damage. It's just a matter of taking in different things into account. So these levels, people who think that leveling is the major step to getting better, it helps, but not in the way that you think it does. First, you need a weapon that can scale very well. You need S rank scaling in whatever that you're using. If not S, try an A rank scaling, because depending on what you're using, it might not be as good as what you could be using. Like I said, I was primarily a strength build, and I was using a greatsword, but there was another weapon out there that required more strength, but was doing double damage of what I was doing. So I respec'd into that and was able to basically do a shit ton of damage. You know, you have to take into account those little things in order to essentially get better. It's more about thought than it is about going in there expecting your levels to just help you. Because as it stands right now, I'm a level 133, and I was getting my ass handed to me by every single boss in the game. But, you know, you upgrade your gear, and you'll eventually be able to beat them, so long as you learn how the bosses fight. And you'll be able to dodge everything. Absolutely no developer should take inspiration from this game's design. Not Rockstar, not Ubisoft, nobody. This is awful, and I rarely say that, because I'm not one of those losers who hates everything. But anyone who actually thinks that no quest log at all and no markers on map is somehow revolutionary and good game design can go to hell. Not to even mention awful graphics, unfairly balanced bosses, and bad performance. Okay, so the reason why Rockstar and Ubisoft will not use that is because they appeal to the broad audience who is so brain dead that they don't want to think about the things that they are playing. They just want to boot up a game, follow instructions, and see a story. And the thing is that if they just wanted that, why didn't they just fucking watch a movie in the first place? So here's the thing. No quest log, no markers on the map. Those things aren't those things aren't revolutionary. In this day and age, we're so used to just not paying attention to cutscenes and zoning out and just referring back to some kind of, you know, map quest log or some kind of marker or something that we could just be brain dead and go through those games. I hate that. I want to think about things. Like, Nicky Jakey put it the best where he was talking about how he was so excited for Red Dead Redemption 2's open world like exploration because he heard something about the NPCs actually end up telling you more specific directions, so you have to pay attention to the world and the road signs and stuff like that in order to find your way to the places that you need to go to, so you can play without the map and just use the compass. But that's not how it works at the end of the day. So basically, because he tried that, the story missions were terrible because they want you to be in specific areas whenever you're doing things. Like, he mentioned how he tried to park a wagon in a discrete location, and he thought he did, but no, he had to turn on his radar, and it was showing him a specific location that he had to park his wagon in, and that was the problem with the modern day questing design, is because they want you to do specific things instead of listen to the NPC, find your way there, and do the quest. Just listen to your NPCs. The NPCs that talk to you, they will give you directions. You have to listen to everything that they say, and they will give you little tidbits of story, reasons for why they want you to do this. They will give you little tidbits of, you know, information that you might be interested in. You know, you go and do the quest, and then you get more of that stuff, and possibly a reward for doing that quest. It's not that hard. Also, again, with the graphics, every fucking time you're just like, oh, my graphics, gotta have the prettiest next generation graphics on a game that is prioritizing gameplay over graphics. Unfairly balanced bosses, they're supposed to be unfair. You see, there's a lot of people out there who think that the bosses are, you know, they're so unfair that they're designed in a way for you to just stop playing, and technically they are, because they're supposed to be these monstrosities that nobody else can kill. It makes sense, because if you think about it, in Dark Souls, whenever you failed to beat a boss, and you quit the game and you never went back to it, you became hollow. You were hollow, and the hollow were the people that literally, they lost their purpose, and they just They started wandering mindlessly. They don't have a purpose anymore and they became hollow. And everyone in the game is urging you not to become hollow. I have an interesting story. I actually played Dark Souls 3 recently with one of my friends. Her name is Amy, and she ended up really hating Dark Souls 3 because all the bosses were kicking her ass. And every time that she was talking about how she just didn't want to play the game anymore, I would always tell her, don't you dare go hollow. And she didn't know what I meant by that until I had told her later on at the end of the game. Well, when we finally finished the game, I told her about what, don't you dare go hollow means. And she was like, oh. Then she was really excited to play Elden Ring because she wanted more of Dark Souls 3. And that's the beauty of Dark Souls, is you're persevering through these impossible challenges and doing the things that nobody else is doing. Sure, there might be other people in our world that might have beaten Elden Ring, but the way that Elden Ring is presented in all the other Souls game is that nobody else has been able to live up to this challenge. Everyone who has made it to where you currently are have perished. So your goal is to not be like them. You keep pushing until you win. That is the beauty of the Souls games. And it's fucking amazing. The reason why that I love these games is because of that. Is because of the fact that nobody else is making games where it's about pushing past the impossible odds, and it's just amazing. Playing Demon Souls, playing Dark Souls 2, playing Dark Souls 3, and now Elden. The only game that I haven't been able to play is Bloodborne. I've played Sekiro as well, but I'd hardly call that a Souls game. It has Souls inspiration, but it's not the same. It's more of a rhythm game, if you think about it, but God, it's so good. It's such good game design. And to say that it doesn't have a quest log and that it's bad game design because it doesn't, that's just not right at all. Like, you're just straight up wrong. And yeah, like, sure, it might not be revolutionary in terms of, like, it's been done before, but the fact that everyone else is doing quest logs now, a game developer who doesn't do quest logs is a breath of fresh air, to put it lightly. This game is a joke. Bad performance and outdated graphics. You can't thrust. Thrust butthole. You can't thrust any reviews anymore. This game brings nothing new to the table except guard counters and stance breaking. And after playing Horizon Forbidden West, god damn it, it feels like a trip back in time. How? Wait, how? So, you're saying that having actual, like, gameplay is going back in time to what we had? You're literally saying that we're, like, Horizon Forbidden West is modern gaming, and Elden Ring goes back in time, saying that actual gameplay is a thing of the past, and games with very minimal gameplay and large budget graphics are the future? That's not true. It should be the other way around. Like, we should be prioritizing our gameplay over the fucking graphics and how flashy everything looks. Like, it goes back to the whole presentation thing. You can have good presentation, but you strip the presentation away, then you realize how minimal the fucking gameplay actually is. That's just not how things work. I'm sorry. It's just not how it works. You can't have a game with very minimal gameplay and expect it to do well. The only reason why I think Horizon Forbidden West does well is because it's flashy. It has that presentation, and that's what gets people stoked. But then you strip that away, and you start realizing just how minimalistic it is. Tagline, most overrated RuneScape clone. Hey, yeah, I'd actually like that. But it's not. Hyped up by people who hate the fact that GTA and Assassin's Creed are popular. No, what? Hold on, what? Hyped up by people who hate the fact that GTA and Assassin's Creed are popular. I put over 1,000 hours in GTA 5 just on Steam alone. And I loved Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Black Flag was my favorite one. I played that shit on the PS4. My friend had gotten the PS4 and I literally went over to his house the day he got it and we played Assassin's Creed Black Flag all fucking day. It was so good. I fucking loved that shit. But nobody's hyping up Elden Ring and saying that they hate GTA and Assassin's Creed. That's just something that you're thinking. You're projecting onto them. You're saying that you love GTA and Assassin's Creed, but you don't like Elden Ring, and that the people that hype it up hate what you like. That's some grade A projection right there, my friend. Modern reviews, modern_reviews. That is some childish thinking behind it, is just because you like a game, then you must hate the games that I like. That's not how it works. That's not how that works. Oh my god. The fact that this entire video has just been, that's not how it works, is just mind-boggling. But yeah, I'd actually like another RuneScape kind of game that, you know, isn't just about like clicking. I'd actually like a game that would play like Elden Ring, but in a RuneScape setting. That would be fucking awesome. An MMO Elden Ring. That'd be fucking amazing. As far as Elden Ring and RuneScape go, RuneScape is a point-and-click MMO RPG that has a very intricate leveling system, honestly. But Elden Ring is a Souls-like. It's a Souls-like game. They're not comparable. Like, just because they both have RPG mechanics doesn't mean that they're inherently the same. That would be like saying that Daggerfall is the same as fucking Skyrim, which is untrue, because Daggerfall is superior to Skyrim, and I know a lot of people are gonna hate me for that, but it is the truth. No way does this game deserve a 97 critic score, pure madness. Very poorly optimized. It runs better in PS4 than PS5. Get it on PS4. That's a no-brainer. Graphics are outdated. Demon Souls Remake looks way better than this. Demon Souls Remake looks way better? Bruh, I think the only thing that looks better is the lighting. I don't know about that one. Controls are jank. No, I've already discussed the controls. They're not jank. Game doesn't even track your quests. Doesn't have to, I already explained that. You have to literally write it down in a journal to reference. You don't have to. You could, you know, memorize. You know, somebody said to go to the southeast past the fucking, like, Mistwood to go to a fort. I mean, that's not hard to remember. You just follow your compass southeast, go past the Mistwood, go to a fort. That was a pretty easy quest. Another excuse is that it is for pure immersion purpose, but honestly, come on, that's ridiculous. You can't pause the game either. What if I need the toilet? Will I just crap myself? Or go to the toilet and come back and I'm dead? Okay. Hold on, that's actually a lot right there to kind of go through. So, tracking your quests, I've already talked about that, but the whole thing about it like being for a pure immersion purpose, that is an argument, yes, but it's not specifically for that as well. It's so you actually take your time, listen to the NPCs, and don't skip through their dialogue, unless you just don't care about doing that NPC's quest at all. That's the only time you should be skipping through dialogue. Otherwise, if you listen to what the NPCs tell you, they will give you clearer instructions on where to go or what to do. And if you forget, you can always go back to them and talk to them again, and they will repeat some lines of dialogue that are important. That or they'll just have generic dialogue saying, like, go out there and don't become hollow, or whatever the fuck that Elden Ring says now, because I didn't have to fucking listen to the NPCs repeatedly. Because I actually listen to the NPCs. You can't pause the game either. Yes, of course. Because it would be stupid to be able to pause the game mid-boss fight and then chug fucking, like, item, like just eat like a fucking liver or something in Elden Ring that will give you resistance to the attack that you're about to get hit with. That would be cheesing a boss. And yes, you can cheese bosses in other ways, but they're trying to minimize the amount of times that you can actually cheese the boss. And plus, on top of that, how would it work for, like, you know, invading? How would you be able to, say, get invaded, but before they actually spawn in, you could just pause and then, you know, have them never spawn in, and then they're effectively on an infinite loading screen. That would just cause too many problems with how they're doing things. And if you need to go to the toilet, just go back to the fucking Firelink Shrine, or the equivalent of Elden Ring. And I don't want to fucking say it because I don't know how far people are. I don't want to spoil shit. But basically, yes, there is a safe zone where you can't get invaded and where you won't fucking die to enemies, which is the equivalent of Firelink Shrine. Just go there if you need to use the bathroom. Or sit at a grace. Sit at a grace. Just sit there until you come back. If you support this game, you are the main reason why gaming is dying. Oh, alright, well, sorry gaming, I have to kill you off. Better fucking, here, hold on. I'll just do it real quick. I have been gaming over 20 years, and you are literally ruining one of my favorite hobbies. With supporting soulless games, no, actually, this is a Souls game, not a Souls game. Actually. I have only one thing to say to you. I hate you with all the passion humanly possible. Okay, so if you think the main reason why gaming is dying is because people play a game, that's not how that works. Gaming isn't dying because of anything. Gaming's not dying. Gaming is actually prospering right now. It's fucking going up. More people are actually interested in video games right now than there ever have been since, you know, the inception of video games. I think, like, the biggest hit to video games was whenever Doom released. Yes, I actually am including the mobile statistics because the mobile gamers are gamers because they do play video games, even if it is on mobile. That does show that there are an interest for fucking video games, despite if they're just simplistic mobile games or, you know, AAA titles that, you know, Rockstar puts out. It doesn't matter, they still play video games. You're a gamer. And gaming isn't dying, I'm sorry. You've been gaming for over 20 years? Congratulations. So have many of us. I have been playing fucking Quake 2 on the Nintendo 64 since I was a child. Just because people like Elden Ring does not mean that it's ruining one of your favorite hobbies. People can like a game that you don't like. I'm sorry. It's the same thing with, like, people liking EA games. I personally don't like any of the newer EA games except for Star Wars Fallen Order. That's the newest EA game that I actually like. And soulless games, I actually think that there's a lot of soul put into Elden Ring. It's just that you haven't figured it out yet. You haven't learned about the story. You just think that you can just skip the cutscenes and then learn as you play. But that only gives you part of the story. You can learn by environmental storytelling, sure, but that's not going to tell you the full picture of the story. If you get to Radahn, if you skip his cutscene, you will not know why you're fucking fighting him. And if you hate me because I like Elden Ring, if you hate everyone who plays Elden Ring just because they like Elden Ring, then you can fucking hate us. That's not going to stop us from playing the game. Sorry. I also like to point out that their name is I Hate Elden Ring. Nardvark says, Steam pile of overhyped crap. Graphics are okay. Again, doesn't fucking matter about the graphics. Nothing to get excited about. Gameplay is okay. I don't see how the gameplay is just okay. I mean, that's the reason why a lot of people play the Souls games, is because the gameplay and the story that comes along with it. Menu/UI is god awful. Tutorial and understanding of the game might as well be, here's a helmet, get out there. And there was nothing to get me hooked, or even wanting more. I know it's a Souls game, but I spent 2 hours dead. Just because it's hard / you can doesn't make it a good game. Co-written by who I wouldn't know because I never even got a chance to hear the story. Bad game. If this is a good game, guess it's time for me to hang up my gaming boots. I'm sorry to say, but you have to turn in your gaming boots because your license has been revoked. Sorry, I don't make the rules, but you spent 2 hours dead. I spent the better part of fucking 50 hours getting murdered by insane bosses, and I beat the fucking game. There were some fucking bosses that are just fucking insane, but they're meant to be that way. I don't see how the UI is god awful. The UI is fine, it's functional, it works. I don't know how they'd be able to make it any better. Tutorial and understanding the game might as well be, here's a helmet, get out there. I mean, that's any Souls game is really like, hey, you're here to get something out of this world. Go in there with your equipment and go fucking kill shit until you get it. That's the entirety of it. In fact, Demon Souls was like, the whole story with Demon Souls was you go in there because the land was pretty much going to hell, and there were a lot of heroes who thought that they could kill the demons to be basically a hero. So you were one of those unfortunate heroes who succumb to the demons and die. But then you revive and you are forever bound to the hub area. So you go out there in your soul form, killing demons, and basically you're just trying to free the land of the demons, while also using the demons' souls in order to use their power against them by leveling up. That was the whole story of Demon Souls. It's very simplistic, but it makes for a hell of a game. Whereas in Dark Souls, it was more about there is a fading fire, and you're going to go in there, and you're basically going to rekindle the flame. And how are you going to do it whenever you're just a hollow? Well, you show them. Get out there and fucking kill some bosses and show them that you have what it takes to rekindle that fire. In Elden Ring, it's you want to be the Elden Lord. So you came over here to try to get the Elden Ring to become Elden Lord. Well, they're not just gonna hand you the ring, or the pieces of the ring, rather. So get out there and take it from them. That's the story. So as far as tutorials go, there is a tutorial area, and you likely just skipped it over. And no, just because it's hard doesn't make it a good game, but it's the meaning behind the difficulty that makes it good. That's the whole purpose of these Souls games, is just because of the fact that, you know, it's difficult for a reason, not just because, hey, it's difficult because fuck you. Just simply not a very good game. Little to no story. Most content is missable and untracked, very outdated and disappointing on accessibility. The only thing that I didn't see with this, I have to fucking talk about this. The only thing I didn't see about the accessibility was like the colorblind features. I don't know what else that they need to be accessible. I mean, there's a lot of shit in there that's accessible. Unimpressive visual and audio design. What? Wait, what? Unimpressive visual and audio design? What? See, the visual design is the stylized kind of design. It's not about the, oh, hey, we have the most graphical fidelity. And audio design? Really? Fucking the audio is fantastic. Sluggish combat, no climbing. This is a Souls game, not a fucking like Uncharted game. What the fuck did he think? Janky horse? The horse fucking controls fine. It's just that whenever you turn, you actually have to fucking turn. So if you're at a ledge and you're facing the ledge, instead of immediately turning, because you're just gonna go forward a little because that's how horses operate, you should probably jump so that way you can double jump back. Poor optimizations and performance despite very minimal technical ambition. Bitch, they're running off of a fucking game engine that they've been using for several years, probably since fucking Demon Souls. I don't know if they're still using the fucking game engine that they use for Demon Souls, but I know they're using the same one for Dark Souls. The one that they use for Dark Souls is being used for Elden Ring, and that is an impressive leap in technical prowess. Like, that is not minimal technical ambition. That is them updating an old-ass game engine to support an open world. That is amazing. I don't know what the hell this guy is fucking talking about, but holy shit. Like, if you actually take a look at it, like, take a look at Dark Souls 1, and look how the level layout is, because there is an actual 3D model of the entire world of Dark Souls. And if you look at that, and see like how things are actually rendered in and where they cut corners, and then you look at Elden Ring and see how things are rendered in there, then you'll realize that there is a massive technical leap between Dark Souls 1 and Elden Ring. That's insane to say that it's minimal technical ambition. And the fact that people are just allowed to fucking put up zeros like this without any credibility is the reason why I dislike fucking Metacritic, is because of the fact that you have people that have absolutely no idea what the fuck that they're talking about and just say, haha, I fucking hate this game, so I'm just gonna put a 0 on it because I like another game better, but this game got a better score than the game that I like. So I'm just gonna pretend like I know what I'm talking about. So I'm just gonna fucking put up a 0 so that way it hurts the user score. And then this guy goes on to say lots of lazy corners cut, like the slideshow opening. Bitch, it doesn't have to fucking have the Resident Evil Village opening to have a good opening. It's literally just an opening to give you a taste of what to expect. It's literally your story. The story shit that everybody else is complaining about, you watched it and then were disappointed that it wasn't a fully fucking motion animation with like combat and shit to appease your fucking goblin gremlin brain that can't fucking like pay attention to anything story related unless there's fucking violence or any type of like disgusting imagery or something shocking on screen. Come on. It's not lazy corner cutting, it is literally them depicting a story without like being flashing about it. They don't do flashiness. It's sad to write what I'm going to write here. This game is overrated. The scores don't match reality. Graphics completely outdated, graphics don't matter. And the worst, all buggy. It incredibly runs better on PS4 than on PS5. Then get it on PS4. Like that's a no-brainer. Why would you pay to play it on a fucking system that plays it worse? This is unacceptable. Pop in everywhere in this game. In the game, rather. Dragon's Dogma had better graphics 10 years ago. Did it? Did it? I remember Dragon's Dogma looking like shit. And like, I still had fun with it. It was a nice little game, but I didn't really care about the graphics. But, you know, looking back at it again, I was like, God, I can't believe I played a game like this. I mean, I still can't believe I play games that look like shit. I mean, I used to play Quake 3 Arena a lot, and hell, I still hop on there every now and then. I'm fucking good at Quake. Quake 3 Arena is my shit. I'll fucking 1v1 anybody in Quake 3 Arena and I'll kick their fucking ass. Let's fucking go. Game looks like shit, but it plays fucking amazing. And I see critics giving it 10 out of 10 for that. Yeah, okay, that's something that I fucking don't understand about the whole like 10 out of 10 system. Like that is a valid point. Like you shouldn't just say, "Oh, it's a FromSoft game. It deserves a 10 out of 10. Oh, it's Rockstar. It deserves a 10 out of 10. Oh, it's Ubisoft. It's a 10 out of 10." No, that doesn't make any sense. There is flaws in everything that we play. Like, Up Is Not Jump made a good point. 10s, fucking 10s. 10s everywhere. Why the fuck is everyone giving Red Dead Redemption 2 a 10 out of 10? It's a great game, but it ain't fucking perfect. There are games that he would give 10s to, like Faster Than Light would be one. But games like Witcher 3 or Red Dead Redemption 2, they do a multitude of different things and it can't be perfect. Faster Than Light can do a very specific thing and be perfect in that regard. But that doesn't mean that Faster Than Light is a better game than Witcher 3 or Red Dead Redemption 2 just because of the fact that it got a 10 out of 10. So, God, that's so much to go through. Anyways, fucking The Witcher 3 is a fantastic game by all regards, but it ain't fucking perfect. Neither is Elden Ring. Elden Ring is by no means perfect, which is why I personally rate it 8.5 out of 10. That's just my own personal opinion. That is my take on that, and you might have a different opinion on the game than I do, and that's fine, but you can't be disingenuous with it, like saying Dragon's Dogma had better graphics 10 years ago. This game is a far cry, haha, far cry. This game is a far cry from what From has ever done. Dark Souls 1 is a masterpiece, Sekiro a game unforgettable, Bloodborne, but Elden Ring got lost, and I don't see how to solve his problems. Well, here's the thing though. The thing is that I've never played Bloodborne, so I don't know what the hell you mean by Bloodborne ... because from what I've heard, Bloodborne is fucking amazing. But that ... could just mean anything. It means that it didn't live up to expectations, or it was just like pretty bland. I don't know. I don't know what you mean by the ... Elden Ring got lost? Elden Ring is a fucking game that you can absolutely get lost in. Elden Ring is one of those games that you can literally play in fucking different manners and have a different experience from everyone else that played it. It's amazing. Like, literally, since I beat the game, I'm gonna go through it again as a fucking bow build. I want to play a bow because I figured out halfway through the game that bows are actually fun in Elden Ring. Did you know that? Did anybody know this? Elden Ring actually made bows fun. Like, seriously, you can get a fucking cannon in the game, and it deals a shit ton of damage if you fully upgrade it. But yeah, fucking Elden Ring is just... it's an amazing game. Like, it definitely deserves to be up there with the big boys, but Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 1 is definitely better because it had a more linear set of, like, pacing. The pacing in Dark Souls 1 was better, but that's what you sacrifice with an open world game like Elden Ring. Elden Ring doesn't have the pacing that Dark Souls 1 has, so there's no way to account for that. So instead of just accounting for it, they littered the world with a bunch of shit. And you're free to go explore it. See what the hell you can find. Because I remember finding a dungeon entrance while trying to take out a world boss with a friend. I literally got back to my world, summoned him, so we could fight the same boss. And I explored the ruins that the boss was hanging around and found a door that led to a dungeon. And he freaked the fuck out because, like, I told him where to go, and he's like, I had no fucking idea that this shit was up here. What the hell? And he had already been through the area. He just needed to fucking kill the boss, so I helped him with it, and that's what happened. We went through the dungeon together. And it was a lot of fun, honestly. But yeah, like, Elden Ring, Elden Ring just made a lot of people salty because for some reason there are people out there that can't, you know, take the fact that Elden Ring scored higher. And at the end of the day, a Metacritic score doesn't really matter. Elden Ring could have been scored a fucking 10, and it could have been deemed as the worst game of all time, but if the gameplay was still the same, that wouldn't have stopped me from playing it. I don't see the point in people taking Metacritic scores so seriously. There are a lot of games out there that a lot of people just absolutely don't like. Like, I remember playing Rise Son of Rome, and I actually enjoyed that game, but a lot of people didn't. But that didn't bother me, because I still had fun with the game. And the truth of the matter is, if you don't like a game, don't play it. Like, sure, you can write a review about it, but don't make it disingenuous and just go on and on about the fucking graphics in every single review. Because I know, like, that's the major thing that people are going on about. And I know it's the fact that Horizon Forbidden West actually ended up getting a worse review score than Elden Ring, and that's what made a lot of people salty over the fact that the people that made... There's actually a video that Fritanga put out very recently that showcased even developers at Sony that were salty about Elden Ring getting higher review scores than Horizon Forbidden West. And you know what that deserves? That deserves some spice. That's spicy. Anyways. I don't know how to end my videos. So, yeah.